Xi Jinping issues mysterious warning, Peng Liyuan may be appointed to key position. Warren Buffett sells nearly $40 million in BYD stock again. China's second-hand home prices fall across the board, transaction prices become state secrets in many areas. 8 people in Henan suffocate to death after riding in refrigerated truck. EU renews calls for CCP to cease human rights abuses, demands release of Falun Gong practitioners. China expands nuclear arsenal faster than any other country, report. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Xi Jinping issues mysterious warning, Peng Liyuan may be appointed to key position. The 20th Third Plenum of the Chinese Communist Party is scheduled to convene in July. It is reported that during this meeting, party leader Xi Jinping intends to promote his wife, Peng Liyuan, to an important role. This development has been widely covered by major Japanese media outlets, including the Yomiuri Shimbun on the 17th. In detail, the Yomiuri Shimbun reported that in May, Hong Kong media stated Peng Liyuan has been actively serving as a full-time member of the People's Liberation Army's Central Military Commission's Personnel Assessment Committee. This committee holds significant authority over the assessment and placement of military personnel. If this information is accurate, it would indicate that Peng's influence within the military sphere is expanding. Moreover, last month, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi lauded Peng's diplomatic efforts as the First Lady. A diplomatic source from Beijing remarked that Peng's public visibility is notably increasing. The Yomiuri Shimbun also reported on speculations that Peng Liyuan has begun to intervene in personnel decisions, including her support for Dong Jun, a fellow native of Shandong, to become the Minister of Defense, and for Li Ganjie to assume the role of Minister of the Organization Department of the CCP. This support is contributing to the formation of what is being termed a Shandong clique within the ranks of the CCP. Peng's active involvement in these high-level personnel appointments signals her emerging role as a pivotal figure in the anticipated post-Xi Jinping era. Her potential nomination to a significant position is expected to be a central topic at the forthcoming plenum. Following the CCP Politburo's decision to schedule the third plenum for July, international media have been rife with speculation about Xi Jinping potentially paving the way for Peng Liyuan's entry into the political arena. In an interview with the Sankei Shimbun, Japanese political commentator Xu Ping noted the unusual postponement of the third plenum from last autumn to this summer, after the National People's Congress. He finds this delay peculiar and suggests that the upcoming July plenum may not focus on major policy changes but will likely emphasize personnel decisions. Xu speculates that this could be an opportunity for Xi Jinping to elevate Peng Liyuan to a position within the Central Committee. There are also rumors of internal disagreements within the CCP regarding Peng Liyuan's ascending power, particularly after Hong Kong media disclosed her role within the Central Military Commission. This revelation was met with displeasure among military personnel, who felt that the military's leadership was turning into a family-run operation. It is suspected that this leak, possibly orchestrated by factions opposed to Xi, was designed to provoke discontent with Xi's leadership both inside and outside the party. On June 17, CCTV, China's official media outlet, published an article in which Xi Jinping issued a warning to party members and cadres not to touch the high-voltage line. This article caught the attention of the public. Radio France Internationale, RFI, responded by questioning what constitutes the high-voltage line and who would dare to challenge it, calling the warning somewhat strange. RFI analyzed that, according to official CCP discourse, the core of the high-voltage line revolves around the two establishes and the two supports, which dictate absolute allegiance to Xi Jinping's leadership and unswerving loyalty to him. They noted that this metaphor of a high-voltage line is very scary because touching it would imply taking one's own life. Yet, they found it puzzling that despite the upcoming third plenum and the recent purging of numerous corrupt officials, including the former Secretary of Tibet, Wu Yingjie, which should have theoretically lessened the number of bad elements within the party and relaxed the internal atmosphere, she still feels it necessary to issue such a warning. RFI pondered whether there remains a significant number of dissatisfied individuals within the party. Furthermore, RFI highlighted that in sync with the CCTV publication, the CCP's Central Commission for Discipline Inspection issued a special report on the 12th, cautioning against publicly criticizing the party on significant issues and explicitly forbidding statements that contradict central decisions. Overall, RFI suggested that the political climate in Zhongnanhai appears increasingly tense, with the third plenum on the horizon and Xi seemingly still uneasy. Warren Buffett sells nearly $40 million in BYD stock again. Reuters recently reported that on June 11, documents filed with the Hong Kong Stock Exchange revealed that Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway sold 1.3 million shares of BYD for 310.5 million Hong Kong dollars, approximately $39.8 million USD. This sale decreased Berkshire Hathaway's ownership in BYD's issued H shares from 7.02% to 6.90%. This transaction is part of a broader trend of divestment by Berkshire, which first invested in the Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer in 2008, purchasing approximately 225 million shares for $230 million, amounting to a 10% stake. As BYD's stock price climbed significantly, Berkshire began reducing its holdings in 2022 and has continued this strategy into 2023. Further filings with the Hong Kong Exchange highlight this trend, showing that in May 2023, Berkshire sold 1.96 million BYD shares, and later in October, it offloaded an additional 820,500 shares. Since the initial reduction in August 2022, Berkshire has sold shares of BYD, a company that receives significant subsidies from the Chinese government, at least 13 times by the end of 2023. During this period, BYD's stock price has dropped about 30% since its peak in June 2022. These sales occur against a backdrop of intense competition in the Chinese electric vehicle market, underscored by Tesla overtaking BYD as the top electric vehicle seller in April. Although Buffett has not publicly explained the rationale behind the ongoing reduction of his stake in BYD, Asia Financial has reported that a primary concern for investors like Buffett is the deteriorating trade and technology relations between the US and China, a concern he has voiced in the past. Meanwhile, Bloomberg analyst Matthew Palazzola has noted that regardless of how Berkshire ultimately handles its remaining BYD shares, the impact on the company's financial condition is minimal. The investment in BYD constitutes just 2% of Berkshire's total investment portfolio, underscoring the limited financial risk to Berkshire despite the strategic pullback from BYD. China's second-hand home prices fall across the board, transaction prices become state secrets in many areas. To obscure the economic downturn, the Chinese Communist Party has progressively ceased the publication of various economic indicators. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics of China shows that in April this year, sales prices for new commercial properties and second-hand homes across 70 major and medium-sized cities decreased by 0.6% and 0.9%, respectively, with the decline widening by 0.3 and 0.4 percentage points, a recent record high. In May, these reductions deepened to 0.7% and 1%. However, the CCP often embellishes these statistics, and the actual situation may be worse. Real estate agents' online disclosures reveal that in many cities, second-hand home prices have fallen 30 to 40% from their peaks, with some halving in price. Due to restrictions imposed by the CCP authorities on the decline of housing prices, the online listed prices in many cities still maintain a relatively high position. However, in reality, there is a price but no market, making it difficult to sell at the listed prices. The actual transaction prices of many properties are significantly lower than their listed prices. Recently, the mainland financial self-media Cherry Big House reported that at least 15 cities, including Beijing, Hangzhou, Hefei, Wuhan, and Nanjing, have stopped displaying the transaction prices of second-hand homes, depriving locals of any publicly available past-related data for reference when considering purchasing a home. Previously, people could easily find the past transaction history of properties on second-hand housing platforms like Beek and Lianjia. Now, as if by mutual agreement, these platforms uniformly indicate no price available in the transaction price column for second-hand homes. The article questions why the transaction prices of second-hand homes are hidden, arguing that as commodities, house prices should be transparent. It suggests that cities may conceal these prices to lessen public reaction to market fluctuations and to mitigate market panic. The second-hand housing market is currently stuck in a downward spiral of competitive price cuts. Buyers are using the latest transaction prices in the neighborhood as a benchmark for their offers, pushing prices down further. Sellers, meanwhile, are struggling to find buyers and often have to settle for less than they hoped for. This continuous drop in second-hand home prices is drawing more buyers into the market, which in turn puts pressure on new home developers to lower their prices as well, creating a chain reaction across the entire real estate market. Nevertheless, the article highlights that hiding the transaction prices of second-hand homes does not effectively halt the downward trend of housing prices. For instance, after Shenzhen authorities introduced guidance prices in 2021, intermediary platforms removed past transaction prices of second-hand homes, but the housing market in Shenzhen has continued to decline over the past few years. The analysis suggests that the lack of access to transaction prices does not significantly impact a buyer's decision-making. For instance, if a property last sold for 5 million yuan, approximately $689,313, but a buyer is only willing to pay 4 million yuan, approximately $551,450, the property will not sell unless the price drops to meet the buyer's offer. Additionally, buyers can easily obtain transaction prices since agents readily provide this information and tend to recommend the most economically priced properties to facilitate sales, particularly in a market with low confidence where sellers are motivated to reduce prices to secure a deal. In China's housing market, where supply exceeds demand and market confidence is low, many speculators have begun to lower their prices to offload properties, resulting in an increase in the number of second-hand homes listed. This past April, Xiang Songzhua, a prominent mainland economist and president of the Greater Bay Area Financial Research Institute in Shenzhen, predicted that housing prices would undoubtedly continue to fall, and he admitted that he had no idea where the bottom was. He explained that there are two main factors at play. First, investment demand is waning, with fewer people viewing real estate as a lucrative investment. Second, while recent sales have been driven primarily by first-time homebuyers, this demographic alone cannot sustain ongoing price increases. 8 people in Henan suffocate to death after riding in refrigerated truck. On June 15, in Yexin County, Pingdingshan City, Henan Province, 8 people were tragically found dead from suffocation inside a light refrigerated van that was illegally transporting passengers. All 8 victims were women from Hongshuangyang Town in Yexin County, who worked at the same local company. Currently, the driver and other responsible parties have been taken into custody. The precise cause of the incident is still under investigation. Netizens shared their sorrow online. Some noted, this is when migrant workers return home or leave for work. They likely use this van to save money. It's heartbreaking. Others question the use of a refrigerated truck for transport, commenting that how could so many be transported in a refrigerated truck? 8 lives lost is tragic. In such a sealed space, cries for help go unheard. We must learn from this to avoid future tragedies. According to a report by Shaoxiang Morning News on the 17th, multiple villagers from Hongshuangyang Town corroborated this information, stating that the victims were all women who worked at a beef factory in the city. They suspected that the accident was caused by a dry ice leak inside the van. One villager speculated that the group may have taken the van due to a lack of available transportation after working overtime at the factory. The van was also carrying cargo, meaning that people, goods, and dry ice were all confined together. Government officials from Hongshuangyang Town confirmed that the van belonged to a company in the high-tech zone and that the 8 victims were employees of that company. However, staff from the Comprehensive Office of the Pingdingshan High-Tech Zone Management Committee claimed to have no knowledge of the specifics of the incident. The High-Tech Zone Emergency Management Bureau simply acknowledged their involvement in the investigation. Officials from the Yexin County Emergency Management Bureau stated that the cause of the accident is still under investigation and that any information should be based on official announcements. Jimu News reported that a member of the Tsaoli Village Committee in Hongzhuangyang Town revealed that 3 of deceased women were mostly in their 40s and were primary providers for their families. They were on their way home from work the night of the incident. EU renews calls for CCP to cease human rights abuses, demands release of Falun Gong practitioners. The 39th EU-China Human Rights Dialogue was recently convened in Chongqing. On June 17, the European Union issued a statement urging the Chinese Communist Party to halt its human rights abuses and release detained Falun Gong practitioners. The statement underscored the grave human rights situation in China, highlighting specific instances where the Chinese Communist Party suppressed human rights defenders, lawyers, and journalists, and called for an end to such violations. The EU also raised concerns about cases involving illegal detentions, enforced disappearances, and the use of torture and mistreatment. The statement also spotlighted the plight of individuals, particularly Falun Gong practitioners like Su Na and Ding Yuanda, who were imprisoned for their religious beliefs. Su Na, an independent artist and poet from Beijing, was unjustly sentenced to 8 years for posting real street photos of Beijing during the pandemic. Her sentence was upheld on appeal last May. Previously, Su had been imprisoned multiple times for maintaining her spiritual beliefs, enduring extensive torture during her incarcerations. Ding Yuanda, from Shandong, was similarly sentenced unlawfully to 3 years last November. His son, Ding Leben, has gained international attention in his campaign for his father's release, prompting the European Parliament to pass an emergency resolution on January 18 of this year. This resolution condemned the actions of the Chinese Communist Party and demanded the immediate and unconditional release of Mr. Ding and all Falun Gong practitioners. In the lead-up to this dialogue, the EU delegation visited Tibet, voicing concerns about the human rights conditions in Tibet, Xinjiang, and Hong Kong, and reiterated calls for the immediate release of those unlawfully detained. China expands nuclear arsenal faster than any other country, report. According to an annual arms report from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, published on June 17, China is rapidly expanding and modernizing its nuclear arsenal, potentially surpassing the number of intercontinental ballistic missiles held by the United States or Russia within the next decade. The report also stated that from January 2023 to January 2024, China's nuclear stockpile increased from 410 to 500 warheads. Hans M. Christensen, Associate Senior Fellow with SIPRI's Weapons of Mass Destruction Program and Director of the Nuclear Information Project at the Federation of American Scientists, stated, China is expanding its nuclear arsenal faster than any other country. He added that there is a trend or significant push to augment nuclear forces in nearly all nuclear-armed states. The SIPRI report also noted that for the first time, China might be deploying a small number of warheads on missiles during peacetime, with only 24, or 5% of its stockpile, being deployed. However, despite this expansion, China's total nuclear arsenal is still expected to remain smaller than those of the United States and Russia, which had 5,044 and 5,580 warheads respectively as of January 2024. The United States had 1,770 deployed warheads, and Russia had 1,710. Additionally, the SIPRI findings align with a 2023 Pentagon report estimating that China had over 500 operational nuclear warheads as of May 2023. The Pentagon further projects that by 2030, China could have over 1,000 operational nuclear warheads, with continued growth expected through 2035. Last year, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg criticized Beijing for not adhering to international norms and laws on nuclear proliferation, noting that China was not transparent about the scope of its nuclear expansion. Earlier this month, Pranay Vadi, a top U.S. National Security Council arms control official, expressed concerns at a June 7 meeting of the Arms Control Association about the rapid nuclear arsenal expansions of China, Russia, and North Korea. He noted these countries showed little interest in arms control and were diversifying their nuclear capabilities rapidly. Mr. Vadi warned that the U.S. might need to deploy more nuclear weapons in response to these developments to ensure the security of the American people and their allies. This perspective aligns with recommendations from a late last year report by the Congressional Commission on the Strategic Posture of the United States, which urged the U.S. to expand and modernize its nuclear arsenal in light of increased aggression from China and Russia. The report highlighted a looming shift in global dynamics, predicting that soon, the U.S. would face a unique challenge as it confronts two nations with nuclear capabilities comparable to its own. Nuclear arsenals are strengthened globally. The SIPRI report found that nuclear arsenals are being strengthened globally. Out of an estimated 12,121 warheads worldwide in January 2024, about 2,100 were deployed in a state of high operational alert on ballistic missiles, and around 9,585 were stored in military stockpiles for possible deployment. There are 9 nuclear-armed states, including the United States, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, China, India, Pakistan, North Korea, and Israel. SIPRI Director Dan Smith said, "While the global total of nuclear warheads continues to fall as Cold War-era weapons are gradually dismantled, regrettably we continue to see year-on-year increases in the number of operational nuclear warheads. This trend seems likely to continue and probably accelerate in the coming years and is extremely concerning." The report also said that the ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict and the Israel-Hamas war weakened nuclear diplomacy in 2023, noting that Russia suspended the last nuclear arms control treaty with the United States in January 2023. Mr. Smith said that we are now in one of the most dangerous periods in human history. There are numerous sources of instability, political rivalries, economic inequalities, ecological disruption, and accelerating arms race. The abyss is beckoning and it is time for the great powers to step back and reflect. Preferably together. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.